and welcome back to my channel. You can probably tell from my disheveled appearance that I got a surprise in today. I got a new subscription, Peace and Pages. Let me see if I can bloop and bloop. I totally was not expecting this to come in today. I was gonna do a book review / opening unboxing this a little bit later. I wanted to finish one of the books I was already reading, but I kind of have a few different books that I want to review, and I'll talk about the one that I'm reading, and then maybe I'll do like a book review on it later once I've actually read it all the way through, because I have some theories. I'm super excited. So the way that this is going to work is I will read the backs of the books, the ones that I haven't read, because 2 of them are from the previous And the Story Begins. So I'll be doing book reviews on those. I'll read those, and then I'll put the time for when I open the box up. That way, if you want to skip the reviews, because they will have spoilers, just in case you do want to read these books. And I think there's just one that I don't really recommend reading, and it's not because it was terrible, it's just personal preference, which I'll tell you which one that was. So, if you want to skip ahead and go to that part, I completely understand. I would not want spoilers for a book that looks really good that I would want to read. Okay, so the one that I am currently reading is called Hunted by Darcy Coates. And I am just discovering Darcy Coates. I absolutely loved their book Parasite as well. That's a really good one. But this one is... Her disappearance wasn't an accident. Her rescue will be a mistake. 5 days after Eileen Hirschberger went missing on a hike through the remote Ashlew forest, her camera was discovered washed downriver, containing bizarre photos taken hours after her disappearance, but with no body and no additional clues. Finding Eileen in the dark and winding woods seems next to impossible. Chris wants to believe his sister is still alive. When the police search is abandoned, he and 4 of his friends vow to scour the mountain range until they find Eileen and bring her home. But as the small group strays farther from the trails and the unsettling discoveries mount, they begin to realize they're not alone, and Eileen's disappearance was no accident. But by then, it's already too late. So I'm going to talk about this one first, and then I'll just go over the backs of the other ones and then talk about them, just because this one, I'm obviously, not very far into it. So... I guess technically a little bit of spoilers, but not too many spoilers because I don't know anything. The first chapter starts off from Eileen's perspective, and honestly, I'm thinking Bigfoot for this one, which might just be because, a day or so ago, I watched, a Bigfoot documentary, so it's kind of on my brain. But the creature that she kind of described kind of sounded like Bigfoot to me. So that's what I'm thinking for this one, and I am a huge fan of, Bigfoot and Bigfoot books and everything like that, so I'm super excited. I am a little bit confused, though, because, so it mentions, Chris and how it's his sister, and he's trying to find his sister, but the second character that it introduced was actually a character named Todd, who is, his sister's stalker. He's creepy. He was the first one to notice that there was something wrong because she hadn't posted to her story, and he freaked out over it and was this isn't like her, and I don't know, he's weird, but he describes Chris as being his best friend. And so I was okay, that's a little strange that, because it mentions how Chris has gotten mad at him over, his obsession with Eileen in the past. And it's why would he be friends with somebody who's, he's getting mad over his obsession with his sister? It was weird. And then there was, one meeting with them where it seemed like no one really liked Todd. So it was kind of why is Todd even in the friend group? I hope they kind of explain that a little bit further, because otherwise it's you're literally just letting this guy that none of you like, who is super creepy towards your sister, just hang around your sister some more. Very weird. But I'm super excited to get further into this. The 2 books that we had gotten from And the Story Begins were Sparrow and The Night Visitors. So I'll be talking about those in a second. And then the other 2 books that I really wanted to talk about are The Patient by Jasper Dewitt. And this one says, When Parker, an ambitious young psychiatrist, takes a job at a Drury State mental hospital in New England, he is intrigued by the facilities Most difficult and notoriously dangerous patient, Joe, a 41-year-old man originally admitted to the hospital at age 6. No one has been able to successfully diagnose him as his symptoms have evolved over time in unusual ways. The only constant, every person who has encountered him has been driven to madness or suicide. Out of desperation, the hospital now allows the staff only minimal contact with Joe for their own safety. Yet Parker, confident in his skills, is convinced that he will cure what others cannot. He finds a way to get close to Joe, determined to uncover what ails the suffering, enigmatic man. It is only after events begin to spiral out of his control that Parker finds himself face to face with a possibility beyond his wildest imagining. Okay, and then the other one that I really wanted to talk about is this one, Slender Man, which I know probably everybody knows, like, the whole thing about Slender Man, how I think it started as, like, a creepypasta or something like that, and it just kind of, like, blew up and became this huge thing. There have been so many stories about him and, like, different things about the legend, and I love how it's evolved over time. There's also been some really sad things that happened, like, I think there was, like, 2 little girls who ended up, like, stabbing one of their friends because Slender Man told them to or something. I don't know if that was real or not or what, but this thing basically, like, took on a life of its own, and I don't even think the original creator probably thought it was going to get this big. But this one is, one man's search for the truth about one of the most intriguing urban legends ever, the modern boogeyman, Slender Man, leads him down a dark, dangerous path in this creepy, supernatural fantasy that'll make you question where the line between dark myth and terrifying reality begins. Lauren Bailey has disappeared. As friends at her exclusive school speculate on what happened and the police search for answers, Matt Barker dreams of trees and a black sky and something drawing closer. Through fragments of journals, news stories, and online conversations, a figure begins to emerge, a tall, slender figure. And all divisions between fiction and delusion, between nightmare and reality, begin to fall. Chilling, eerie, and addictively readable, Slender Man is a unique, spine-tingling story and a brilliant and frightening look at one of the most fascinating and diabolical mythical figures in modern times. Okay, so I'm going to put somewhere on the screen where I start going into and the story begins, because from here on out, it is going to be spoilers. And I'm going to start with the books that we wanted to review originally from And the Story Begins. So we'll start with the one, Night Visitors, by Carol Goodman. So this book was a kind of slow start. You know, it was about, like, these this, like, mother and son who are fleeing from the abusive dad, and they get with the social worker who, like, the son reminds her of her brother, and, like, and it just gets weird because she ends up taking them back to her home, where, like, this whole conspiracy and, like, just this entire thing ends up happening. For one, the mom in it, Alice, she's not the kid's mom, for one. She was, like, their neighbor who ended up having, like, a love thing happening with the dad, and it just got bad, and she decided to take the boy with her to escape, like, the abusive dad, which, it's like, okay, like, you care about the boy and stuff like that, but she was still it was a little weird, her relationship with the boy. And by the end of it, they managed to stay together, like, once everything was said and done, like, the way that it was spun to the cops after everything, which I don't know if that was probably the best choice, to be honest. Like, I understand the mom had her own, like, stints in, like, foster care and everything, and she had, like, a really bad experiences with them in, like, the juvenile detention facility, and she didn't want the little boy to have that life. So maybe it did work out in favor. They ended up staying at, like, the nun convent, and, like, I don't know, it just ended with them being there, being together and everything. But then the woman who took them in, so there was so many twists and turns in this book. Like, I mean, for one twist, you find out that, you know, that lady wasn't really his mom. And then the other twist you find out is this whole time that she's, like, there's, like, parallels between this little boy and, like, her dead little brother. And then you find out it's not her brother, it was her son. So it's like, that mom's not really his mom, but this lady was really the mom. Like, okay. And then you find out that the local sheriff was the father of the baby, and his dad, like, there was this entire thing about how she thought she remembered a memory of her dad, like, killing her like brother, but it turns out it was her like boyfriend at the time, who was the father of the son, but he didn't know that dad, who like killed the mom and the dad and killed the like little boy, which is horribly sad. And then you find out that she like got pregnant again, and I don't know, I think something happened. I don't really remember. It was a lot to take in, okay? And like they have this showdown, and she ends up like, or not she, but the ghost of the little boy who was like the sheriff's son kills him in the barn. Like, straight up murders him, and then she sees them walking off hand in hand, smiling together, and it's like, that's real strange. Also, at the beginning of the book, it made it seem like the abusive dad of the alive boy, it made it seem like he was dead. Spoiler, not dead. He came and he killed somebody, and then he was like terrorizing them, and then the other dad of the dead boy killed him, and it was just like this. It was really weird. It was a weird book, but it was still pretty good. Like, it was really easy to get through. Once you started trying to like piece stuff together, it was pretty interesting. Pretty much it's one of those books that like almost nothing happens until the very end, though. It just hints at stuff. And then there was Sparrow. So Sparrow was the other book that we got with the And the Story Begins subscription. I couldn't read this one. Like, I mean, you can see how far I got in it. Not very far. Just because, like, every time I'd pick it up, I would just be filled with, like, this dread, because there's this little girl who's obviously got, like, these, like, mental issues, and then she gets with this boy who's obviously, like, very controlling and not, like, he's described as being, like, the Prince Charming of the school, but there's something just really off about him, and I knew from reading, like, the description of it when I read it when I was doing the And the Story Begins unboxing, that it wasn't going to be a good book. And I'm at that age where, like, when I was younger and I was reading, like, stuff like this, I was like, oh, you know, this is so creepy, it's so scary, but I'm at the age now where I'm older, and I don't want to read about horrible things happening to children, and not necessarily, like, because I've read Stephen King, and he does some pretty terrible things that happen to children, but, like, the psychological terrible things that happen to kids, I couldn't. I'm going to set those right there. That'll work. Anyway, so I just couldn't get through that one. It was a really hard read for me, and it just kept filling me with dread, and I was like, I really tried, though. I was like, I'm gonna try to read this so I can give an accurate review, but that didn't happen. Okay, on to The Boogeyman. So this one was super good. It was written so differently, too. Like, I don't think I've ever seen anything written about this, because the way it starts is the boy in it is very troubled. He's having nightmares, and it's a diary that he's keeping that his new psychiatrist told him, like, hey, you should start keeping this diary. And he's like, I don't know what to write down. And so he just starts writing down this stuff. But it's not just that. You also get to see, like, newspaper clippings. You get to see, like, the notes and conversations that his psychiatrist has with his parents. Like, there's text messaging involved, and it's not just like between him either, it's like all the people around him. And what happens is the girl in it, his friend, who's not really his friend, they kind of like, they text and they talk a lot, but she's really popular and he's not, and they just don't hang out in in person ever, really, unless there's no one else around. Which also was a little bit weird, but, you know, he seemed okay with it. It was more like it was a weird friendship, but it was a friendship. Anyway, she goes missing, and he hacks into her, like, iCloud server, because apparently she had given him the passwords at some point because she needed something. Anyway, but then he finds these pictures where it looks like Slenderman is in the background, and he starts having nightmares about it, like really vivid nightmares, where he believes that he is the only person who can save her from Slenderman. And he goes onto this chat forum because he's also, this is another part of it that I didn't really like, but he's also a writer who's writing his own, like, story that he didn't realize was about Slenderman. And, like, partway through the book, the story starts writing itself, too, to where it seems like Slenderman is writing the story, which was kind of creepy. But he starts like posting on this chat forum, and he posted about his friend and like the nightmares he's been having, and somebody commented on it and was like, hey, I'd like to help you with this, and was like trying to talk him through him, trying to tell him like be as careful as possible, like this is so scary, and like you know, was basically trying to be there for him during this entire ordeal. So he goes into the woods with a recorder and tries to find her. And as soon as he does that, like the next day he's found on like a bench and he's like covered in mud and everything like that. But then she comes home. But then he's still having these nightmares about like Slenderman and about how he stole something from Slenderman. And then he realizes at the end of the book that in order to keep his friend safe, he has to go back to Slenderman and face him again. And he's never heard from since. And I think at the end of the book is when you really realize how sad this book is, because at the end of the book, you realize that this kid had no friends the entire time. The guy who was online, who was talking to him about it, was a guy who he was just playing along to get like his Slenderman story out, and he was trying to help him with his Slenderman story, but he didn't believe any of it. It turns out, like, he didn't believe anything of that. And he talked about how terrible it was that the kid used an actual girl's disappearance in like his Slenderman fic, you know. And then the girl who was kind of his friend, like they never talked other than in texting sometimes, and like their parents were friends and that's how they met. And then his one guy best friend that he talked to was really weird, like, and I don't even know like if they were that close. They seemed that close, but then he would get upset at him because he didn't like tell him things, and I don't know, it was his one guy best friend was strange, but they didn't really hang out ever either. They just sometimes talked. So you have this kid who is obviously like super troubled, and then he just disappears, and you realize his entire life he was basically like alone the entire time. It was sad, but it was creepy. Like the Slenderman bits were really scary, and I would highly recommend this book. Like it was really good. And then The Patient. So I wanted to do, and Slenderman was by, it doesn't say. What do you mean it doesn't say? All I can get is the publishing. Okay, well, I don't know. But this one I wanted to talk about next because it tried to do what Slenderman did. So it started off with like, it was just really weird. Like here, I'll read at the beginning of each chapter. It made it seem like, I write this because as of now, I'm not sure if I'm privy to a terrible secret or if I myself am insane. So it acts like he's writing it to an audience. Like, and he even like in the beginning of the chapters, every single chapter, it mentions like, he doesn't say comments that people did, but it says like, oh, I'm thankful for all your support and stuff like that. But then at one point it like mentioned that he was physically writing all this down. So I was very confused about that. Like, they obviously tried doing what Slenderman did very well, and they just didn't do it as well. It just didn't feel as genuine. So that was really strange. And the only thing to me was the entire time I was reading the book, I was like, please tell me that like he goes insane and it's actually like him like writing to himself in his like cell, because that would have been like perfect. That would have fully explained it. But no, that's not what happened at all. And in fact, in this book, it's all about him treating his patient Joe. He only talks to Joe twice. Yeah, twice. And the first time he talks to Joe is like, page 70 and 71, and like somewhere in there. So like, this is where he has his first conversation with Joe. And like the other times that he like says he goes in and talks to Joe, it doesn't actually say what they talk about or anything. So it's only like 2 or maybe 3 times if I'm forgetting one. But for like a book where he's supposed to be, anyway. But it turns out that Joe is like some sort of like demon who, back when the child was having nightmares about him, I'm not going to explain this right because it was really weird, but it was definitely worth the read. But like he like killed the child, like, and took over his like life. And he feeds off of people's like misery. So that's why he was able to like, he wanted to live in the hospital. He didn't want to be out of the hospital because they were just constantly feeding him with all the crazy people, and the orderlies he would make go insane. Which they didn't go into too much. There was a few people that they were like, oh yeah, this happened. But it wasn't, I don't know. it was a good read, though. It was definitely creepy. The ending was good. It just definitely felt like, I don't know, it almost felt like it's leading up to something else, because the end kind of hinted that there were others like the creature who was Joe. And by the end of it, the psychiatrist actually goes and opens his own practice where he helps children specifically with, like, who are having, like, nightmares. That way, nothing that happens to Joe happens to them. Because, like, there's this weird thing in it where whatever you tell the creature that it is, that's what it assumes it is. And it can't be anything else other than what you tell it is. So it was kind of cool. It was definitely an interesting concept for a book. But I'm really excited reading Hunted and everything. So I'm super into that. Let's get on to Peace and Pages. Okay, so for Peace and Pages, I wanted to take you first to, like, their website, because this was so cool, because when you subscribe to them, it's like you can choose to either do bi-monthly or monthly, which I was like, oh, that's really awesome, because then, like, you know, it can get kind of expensive, as you can see from there. Like, the lowest is $26. So I did the bi-monthly just because I was like, you know what, once every 2 months, this is fine. And then you get to choose between the deluxe, which is a book in the genre of your choice, along with full-size products. Each product will contain a bath and body, an aromatherapy product, special gift, you know, or the basic. A book and full-size aromatherapy products, but they're like, I guess all of these are from small businesses, which also is really cool. I think I did deluxe. We're just going to do that. But this is the part that I wanted to show you. This is what was so cool. You can select which genres you want, this is the first, like, book with, like, bookish goodies that I've seen where you can actually select which genre. And you can do more than one, too. Like, look, you could literally click as many as you wanted and then continue from there. So I believe I did horror, I did romance, and I did the science fiction and fantasy, because those are kind of like my 3 favorites. Not super into romance super much, but a little bit into romance. But I just want to show you that because I thought that was just really cool that they, you know, offered so much variation in their things. Okay, I'm kind of back. I don't know. Transitions are weird sometimes. Anyway, so let's get into this. I can already see, like, the stuff coming out of the box. Ugh, I'm not a fan of that stuff just because it gets everywhere, and, like, I have to keep my, like, we have a lot of animals, and I have to keep my animals from, like, eating it, and Ooh. Cute packaging, though, like, super cute packaging. Yes, so I did get the deluxe edition, so it looks like this might say what's in it, but we're going to put that aside for now. And there's this, that I guess it's just extra protection because it's all like a hard cardboard. Oh, this is cute. Okay. Let's see if it'll focus on it. It says 1 day at a time, and you can put the date, and it's like super big too, so it's like you can make lists, but it's pretty good size. Like, it's really big. I'm assuming that it's supposed to be the sun and the moon as well. I can definitely tell the moon, but that sun, a little weird, but okay. Oh yeah, it says good morning on the bottom left and good night at the bottom right. So this is supposed to help you, like, plan out your day kind of deal. I did not plan this very well. I was too excited, so I didn't, like, my desk is always chaotic because I'm always doing shit on here, so there's just stuff everywhere. Ooh, okay. Here's some coffee. Oh, that's cool. Okay, so it's Java Aroma Roasters Morning Jolt Breakfast Blend, medium-bodied roast for just enough jolt to start off your day. And then they do the date for, like, when it was roasted on for you. Like, that's wonderful. I think I also had to put in there whether I wanted ground or beans, and I don't have a way to ground beans, but I did hear, I have heard that is better coffee. Oh, that smells good. Like, that smells real good. And this is 8 ounces, so this is pretty full too. Okay, I'm kind of excited about that. I don't have a coffee pot either. But I'll work it out. You know, there's always the whole, like, boiling water on the stove kind of deal. Lots of these. Just a ton of these. Let's see. This is the next thing. Get One Up Foaming Gel Body Wash, Essential Oil, Bergamot, Lemon, and Peppermint. And it's supposed to energize you. 8 ounces as well. So this looks... I love bath products. Like, absolutely love them. Ooh, that smells super good. My husband will love the scent of this. It kind of reminds me of the woods in a way, which is probably that bergamot. I'm not really getting the peppermint a ton. It's mostly just bergamot and lemon, but that's kind of good because peppermint can be overwhelming. Okay, super excited about that. That smells really good. And it looks like this is manufactured and distributed by Country Bath House. There it is. So that smells super good. And then we got this, which is an energy. It's an oil. Apply to temples, neck, forehead, or wrists. So yeah, it looks like it's like an essential oil. It looks like this one's got, I don't know what jojoba is, but it's an oil, and it's got grapefruit, which I love. Vetiver, lime, and orange. So I like a lot of those that I knew what they were. There were 2 in there that I did not, which you can probably guess. Oh no, I gotta open it. I love that this is all like small business stuff, and a lot of this stuff is looking like it's like natural too, so that's kind of nice. I don't use, ooh, okay, so this is kind of like a matte black. Okay, well my camera does not want to focus on this at all, probably because it's so small, but it's like a, we'll do it like this. It's like a very matte black here, which looks very nice. I don't really do essential oils a ton. I don't really smell anything. It said apply to the wrists, right? Temples, neck, forehead, or wrists. Okay. It's very subtle. Like, you can definitely tell the orange comes through a lot, and the grapefruit. It's very, very subtle. But this is supposed to give you energy. It seems like that's a theme. Like, the breakfast, obviously the coffee is going to get you energy, but the body wash was also supposed to be energized and energy. So maybe that's like a theme. Was there? Yeah, morning energy is the theme for September. So, okay, that's kind of fun. I love when they have themed stuff. Especially if they tell you about the theme beforehand. It just makes you a little bit like, I don't know, get excited for it. Oh, that's cute. So it's an item of theirs that's literally just this, like, it gives me, like, Sherlock Holmes and, like, Nancy Drew and, like, old, like, detective vibes, you know? That's really cute. I don't know quite what I'm going to use it for, but the pen is paper. Like, it's not plastic either. So that's kind of fun. I wonder. And then the back just has this, like, not quite sure why, but it does. It also gives me, like, Blue's Clues vibes. Pretty much anywhere where you have a pen attached to a notebook, and that's what vibes it gives me, because that's what it is. Anyway, but that's super cute. I'm not quite sure what I'm going to use for it yet, but I'm sure I can find a use for it. Maybe I'll put, like, a magnet backing on it and have it, like, at the fridge. Maybe. I don't know. We'll see. Okay, that looks like everything but the book. Okay, so let's see what we got. We got ink. Very pretty cover. It makes me think that maybe we got a romance genre one. Oh, and there's a bookmark in it too. So that's fun. I love getting bookmarks because I never have enough, and then I usually end up using, like, receipts. It doesn't look like it's signed, which I know some of these book subscriptions you get them signed, but it doesn't look like this one is, and it is a softback too. It's not a hardback. But it says, when all you have are memories, there is no greater horror than forgetting. One day, tattoo artist Patty Cakes, who has her dead daughter's face tattooed on the back of her hand, notices that it's beginning to fade, taking with it the memories she has of her daughter. Could this be real? But she's not alone. Monk Anderson is a private investigator whose skin is covered with the tattooed faces of murder victims. He is a predator who hunts for killers, and the ghosts of all those dead people haunt his life. Some of those faces have begun to fade too, destroying the very souls of the dead. The damaged people of Pine Deep are all experiencing the same phenomena, having their most precious memories dragged and ripped out of their hearts forever. Something is out there, something cruel and evil preying on the damaged and lonely, feeding on their memories, erasing them from the minds of good people. How do you hunt something you can't see? How do you forget something you can't remember? For the people of Pine Deep, tracking down this memory thief will lead to the greatest horror of them all. Through the pain and suffering of memory, the supernatural thriller will teach you that there's no greater horror than forgetting. Okay. At first I was like, yeah, the characters seem a bit strange. But wow, that seems so good. Okay. I'm excited to read this. I will probably read Hunted first just because I'm in this one right now. But I'm super excited to read that. It seems really good. I was very impressed with this book box. This will probably be one that I actually do continue just because it's a bi-monthly kind of deal. So not too much pressure to like finish a book super fast. Sometimes I get slow at reading. And I loved all the products. So yeah, it looks like we got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 items. So that's pretty great. All right. Thank you so much for watching. Have a wonderful day. And I don't know if I showed this, but I wanted to show this because it's the spoiler card, but it also has where they got from, like, because this is all small businesses, so this is where they got all of where it was all from, in case I missed like saying where something was, because I'm terrible like that. But that's nice that they put it all in one card for me so I could just, anyway, thanks.